Good morning, folks. I hope your coffee's as good as mine. And man, I tell you what a beautiful Sunday outside. I have got a wonderful treat for you today. A wonderful treat for you today. Good friend of mine. I've known him for years. He love to have discussions with the guy. He brings in. I love students of history. I do. I just love students of history because if someone studies history, their frame of reference, the way they look at things, you know, they just have the experience, they have the background, uh, they don't just look at something and go with the flow. They're never sheeple. They've witnessed things before, they know what's going on, and they can apply that knowledge to what's happening today. Doesn't matter if what is going on. If you want good conversation, you want good opinions, you want challenging thoughts, talk to somebody who is a student of history. And my good friend that will be joining us today, Boston Small, is absolutely uh, uh for years we both came out of TikTok back in the day. Just his takes on things are fresh. We don't always agree on everything. Who does? But yeah, before we waste any more time, grab your coffee, fill your cups, grab your pen and paper for the roundtable at the end of the show, and let's do this. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing today?
Morning, sir. That intro there made me pretty hungry.
Everybody always tells me that, man. Everybody always tells me that. How's your coffee this morning?
Excellent, thank you.
Good to hear. Good to hear. They always bust my chops about slurping in the microphone. I gotta get better about that, my friend. I gotta get better about that. Oh man. Just so you know, I just want to give you an idea just how great a guy this is. Okay. I'm
Easy
old,
now. Make me blush. Making a grown man blush over here. Stop it.
No, man. I love telling this story. I love telling this story. Um, for a couple of years now, I've been trying to be a little healthier. I have. I've just been trying to be better about it, and I've gotten older. When I was young, yeah, it's no big deal. You kicked off some meals, you headed to the gym, this, that, and the other. But when you're old, it's not the same thing, brother. It is not the same thing. So I called my good friend here, who is absolutely one of the smartest guys when it comes to fitness and taking care of yourself. I mean, dude's got guns for days, man. I'm telling you. So I called him and said, "Hey, man, what do I need to do? I'm having a hard time. I used to be able to just bulk up. I used to be able to just hit the gym and this, that, and the other. And the man gives me an hour of his time at least. Just lays out a plan for me, and this is what you need to be doing and whatnot." So fast forward a couple of days, I go on vacation with Mrs. Texas Paul. And I'm sitting at a restaurant. We're on vacation, man. and they bring me out this plate of fried everything. I mean, it's a seafood joint. I swear to God, I think they deep fried the kitchen sink and put it on the plate, right? So it is. I do what I do. I take a picture of it and I post it all to my social media accounts, put my phone down, and I'm sitting there munching on shrimp. And then all of a sudden my phone, boop, boop, boop. I pick it up and look over. It's my man's balls. What the fuck? what the hell are you eating, man? Are you serious right now? Rest of my vacation, man. I'm going through the buffet line. I'm looking for smalls. Making sure. Anyways.
I remember, man. I remember we had that talk, and you posted that picture. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
I appreciate you spending your time with us. I really do. It's Sunday. I know you're busy. I know I appreciate you. I just want to get your take on a few things that are going on. Last show, I should say, a couple days ago, we talked about Kate Cox and what's going on down here in Texas. Let me remind everybody who Kate Cox is.
This story really bothers me, man. It's really, really disgusting. Do we know who she voted for? Do we know what side of the aisle she votes for?
No, it's just been completely irrelevant to it. She just
completely irrelevant. I mean, obviously being in Texas, it's just
she's not an activist, if that's what you're saying.
Me, how many people vote against their own self-interest, and I don't know who she votes for or whatever, but
yeah, she's not an activist, if that's what you're saying. It's just her and her husband. Of course. They wanted to have a kid. They want to have a kid. They're trying to plan their family now.
Yeah,
and she just got horrible news. Horrible news. Her fetus has Edwards syndrome, and Edwards syndrome is
like 4 times now, right?
Huh?
She's already been in the emergency room a number of times now.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt what's going on with this fetus. Just to give you some idea, there are different versions of Edwards syndrome. She's got trisomy 18, which is one of the worst. And just to catch everybody back up, if you missed the last show, trisomy 18 it's not a genetic thing. It's not like dad had it or mom had it or whatever. It's just a freak of nature that happens when the sperm hits the cell. Instead of passing on one set of genes, it passes on 2, so that the fetus ends up with 3 sets of genes, which, our genes are a roadmap to our body. It's replicated into every cell after that, so nothing develops normally. Give you an idea how deadly this is. 8 out of 10 fetuses that are diagnosed as being afflicted with trisomy 18, the mothers miscarry. 8 out of 10. Out of the 8 out of 10, or the 2 out of the 10 that survive, 5 out of 10 die the first week.
Wow.
From the 5 out of 10 that die the first week and make it to 1 year, 9 out of 10 of those babies die. None of them are what you could remotely characterize as normal. Their entire infant lives, they almost all die, and it's one surgery after another, because no organ, not your heart, not your kidneys, not your liver, nothing develops normally, period. So this woman is going to just.
And so she got okayed by the court to get the abortion because it falls underneath the medical exemptions, but it's Ken Paxton himself, who was nearly just removed from office, that is bringing this to the Supreme Court. Come on, Duke. That's bringing this to the Supreme Court, and cat distraction.
My producer's over here, man. My producer's over here.
But brought to the Supreme Court and is threatened to sue any of the hospitals. Is actually reached out to some of these hospitals in the area and threatened to sue any doctor or hospital that helps with this abortion right now.
Exactly. And then last Friday, after losing, right? Judge Gamble, it was Maya Guerra Gamble is her name. Said, look, no, this law is unconstitutional. It does not take into account emergencies or anything like that. You cannot force this on a human being, period. She can have her abortion. Ken Paxton goes to the Texas Supreme Court. And if you don't know, folks, the Supreme Court here in Texas is an elected body. They are political by nature. This isn't like our Supreme Court where you're appointed, and half the time they'll appoint these radical ass right wingers. Judge Souter was a perfect example. He was a hardline conservative appointed by Poppy Bush went liberal, hard liberal, because he didn't have to run for election, never had to get a seat again. They said, that's not these people. These people have to go through the Texas litmus test of what it means to be a Republican to keep their job.
Mm.
Okay, so to say that this court is radical is an understatement. Okay.
Now, obviously, a big driver behind these abortion things, especially down in Texas, a lot of religious Christians that are behind it. Trying to protect the fetus and every life is. Well, what little people realize is that in this country, even back to colonial America, up in New England, when you had a little theocracy with the Pilgrims going on, there was no social, legal, or cultural reprimand for anyone that wanted to get an abortion. In fact, Ben Franklin himself actually wrote a manual on how to have safe and effective abortions. The first laws of abortion didn't come onto the books until about the 1820s, and then abortion before quickening didn't happen until the 1860s. And that just got more ramped up as we got closer to the 1900s, as race suicide started to become a real subject in this country. And you can see that in 1902 when Teddy Roosevelt declared that was the most important issue facing the country. It's a lot of racist thing behind it, but when people start talking about we gotta get God back in the country like how it was before, back when we had the most God in our country, back when we were kind of like a theocracy back up in here in New England, even they had abortions, and there was nothing that would stigmatize a woman or shun her in any way. And you can see it in the medical records that date way back. So it's really just a religious fanaticism that is behind this movement right now. And it's really, really disgusting to watch. And I can't believe the cruelty of this Ken Paxton guy. They set up the laws for this extreme abortion or whatever. And he's not even obliging by it and just going after him like this. And how dangerous is that woman's life. I mean, they just don't respect women in any shape, way, or form. And it's really disgusting to watch.
No, they don't. They don't, man. And you're right. This isn't about religion. At the end of the day, it's not about religion. This is evil Popeye, Ken Walleye Paxton, my AG, the guy we're talking about. This jackass. This isn't about religion for him. It's not. It's about, there's a couple radical ass billionaire donors. First Woods is one of them. Tim Dunn is another, that consider themselves pastors at the churches, fund all this crap. That's what this is about. This is keeping those big time radical ass extremists. It's not even mainstream Christianity, man. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk to your average, church every Sunday Christian, and you said, okay, look, Kate Cox, and this is where I'm going with this. Kate Cox, you explain her situation, they'd be like, oh yeah, she needs to be able to have that D&E. She does. She needs to be able to have that D&E. This is just, again, it's the most radical political bullshit.
Well, let me ask you a question. If she decided to go to a blue state to get an abortion, can they go after her for anything? If she decided to leave
They'll
Texas?
try. They'll try. It won't fly, but they'll try. Just to appease the radicals, they'll try. In fact, there's a case.
Obviously, make her go broke with court cases and all that other stuff.
Well, what it is here's where I was going with this. Okay. The point behind this, the politics behind it is they just want to slow this down. Ken Paxton went to the Supreme Court on Friday and said, look, issue an emergency ruling just to put this on your plate. They did not schedule a hearing, nothing. There's another case before them, Zorowski versus Texas, where 20 women sued the state.
It's happening in Kentucky right now, too.
Yeah, exactly. This is the same type of case that's going on in Kentucky. They don't want Kate Cox to be this face. What they're going to do is they're going to delay it because she's going to miscarry, dude. She's going to miscarry. Yeah. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to force her to miscarry so that her case is not the case they hear. They're just going to schedule it for months down the road where the baby will be stillborn or she'll miscarry and she's off the table. They've already got their case that they want to argue, which is it's a range of women. It's 20 women that have filed suits that had to, what you were talking about, having to leave the state to go get abortions. They're suing over the physical problems that they had with their bodies because, this is the part that pisses me off is pregnancy's not free, dude, to a woman. It has a physical toll. And to me, a woman, could you imagine for a second? Let me throw this at you, dude. Let me throw this at you. Could you imagine? Okay, have you had sex recently?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Since you've had sex recently, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to put a balloon in you, and I'm going to blow it up with a couple gallons worth of liquid to where it stretches out your body so much that your skin splits and you develop stretch marks. And then I'm going to make you carry that around for several months so that it affects your skeletal, your skeleton. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to take and I'm going to put you on a type of chelation therapy, and I'm going to take minerals out of your body continuously.
Yeah.
Okay. Until and at the end of it, I'm going to take it all away. You're going to have a greater chance of osteoporosis. You're going to have all the physical problems that pregnancy brings. And then at the end of it, I'm going to hand you a baby, dude. You want that baby? No, do you want that baby? Right now, you want me to just drop a baby on you?
I still can't wrap my head around it. And not only that is these people who are pro-life that want people to have kids, like she wants to have kids, is that this really might take away her chance to be fertile and like have kids in the future as well.
Bingo. This is what I'm talking about, though. You know, to me, a woman saying, okay, look, and this is where they're coming from. This is their control thing. This is where the freakdom comes in for me, is to them, it's, oh, a woman went out and had sex. So we get to tell her what happens after that. A guy, if I just laid the same scenario I just laid on you on a guy, just because you had sex, man, I'm going to drop a baby on you. It's really easy for you to say, no, we're not doing that. For the woman to say no, she needs to end that pregnancy.
Yeah.
And it's not my place, your place, or anybody else's place. She may just decide, I don't want to have a baby right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. If I had something growing in me and I didn't want it there, it's getting out somehow.
Yeah. I mean, and then you make the great point. She wants to have kids. And here in Texas, you know, cattle everywhere. You know, steers and queers, man. You know, everywhere. You know, just everywhere. Yeah. That's the way we are. That's the way we are here, man. We're you got the LGBTQ people that we're friendly with now. You know, that forever hate ruled this freaking state, man. And finally, we're making inroads on that. You can be whoever you want to be, right?
Yeah.
A freaking cow. If a cow is pregnant, calf is non-viable. You know what they do?
What?
An abortion. Yeah, they do. I mean, they immediately they try to induce labor to get the calf out as early as possible. Why? Because it can damage the cow. It can damage the cow, and you want that cow to be productive.
Yeah.
You don't want it. I mean, here in the state of Texas, they give a shit more about the cattle than they do the people. I mean,
isn't there? Don't you guys have a bounty law, like $10,000 to report on anyone? That
yes.
You might have a. I mean, dude, if you're a conservative and call yourself like a small government conservative, and how you could be okay with something like that, I'll never understand it. It's mostly like dystopian thing. I mean, that in alone just creates distrust and discord among your neighbors, and it splits people apart. It's there's nothing about this pro-life movement that you guys got going on down there that's anything but pro-life. It's really disturbing to watch.
Somebody mentioned the fact bat, brother. I've got my fact bat I keep with me. I beat the hell out of these people with my fact bat. You know, I'm telling you, where I was linking that to with the LGBTQ plus community, because we have had that fight for years. I mean, we really have. We're allies. We both back the LGBTQ plus community. We do.
Yeah.
That is what this is keyed about here in the state of Texas. It is old school hate. It is old school misogyny. And that's why I said it that way, man. As offensive as it is. That's what you hear in the state of Texas. Steers and queers, man. Yeah. You know, as far as the eye can see, this is what these old racist bastards are doing. And they want to, and this is where it comes from.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. Reminds me of that movie, the Steers and Queers that you keep saying of Full Metal Jacket. There's only two type of people that come down there.
Yeah.
I don't don't know if you've seen that movie or not. It just
Officer and a Gentleman, Louis Gossett Jr. Only two things down in Oklahoma.
And you know what's here, so I guess that pretty much narrows it down.
and that's exactly it, man. That's exactly. They want to make this all okay. They want to make misogyny okay. They want to make LGBTQ plus hate okay.
Yeah.
Again, all of us. This has nothing to do with Christianity. It has nothing to do with Christianity.
It's just complete control. And it's really,
the Supreme Court, I'm a believer that if you're going to be in the game, you deserve to have some skin in the game. So here, let me just read your names. You can look this up. You can go to this website. It has a complete listing of the Texas Supreme Court. You got Nathan Hecht, Deborah Lehrman, Jeff Boyd, Philip Devine, Jimmy Blacklock, Brett Busby, Jane Bland, Rebecca Huddle, and Evan Young. You want to know who's responsible for this shit? They are. They're the ones responsible for this. They're the ones that think it's okay to play political games like we're talking about, play political games with people's lives, and it's bullshit, man.
And I'll never understand how there's women like this that are on board with this kind of stuff. Like you just saw some of those justices who are females. And not for nothing. What I've noticed a lot of women, just around me anyway, that they don't really care about this abortion thing or pro-choice until it actually affects them. And I don't know. I can't remember or recall how many conservatives were against such a thing until it actually affected them.
Yeah.
And that's mostly like how conservatives rock, is that they live in this fantasy where like everything happens to everyone else, and they don't really get off their ass to do anything until something happens to them or their family or their loved ones, and they're put in that position.
And ladies in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong here. Y'all, I can't speak for women. I never have tried to, but I think where a lot of it comes from, it's like this Tommy Tuberville thing. He originally, his hold on all the promotions in the military was based on the military has initiated a program to root out white supremacists. He initially came out against that. Remember when he said that stupid ass statement? Well, I call them Americans. Yeah. Well, they got a hold of him and said, "You can't say that, dude. You can't say that. Say it's about abortion, and then you can put that hold on for as long as you want."
I thought the whole thing was about abortion originally. I didn't realize him saying that.
No, it originally started with the whole white supremacy thing. That's where the holds first started. But that's my point, though, is once the issue becomes about abortion, people just they go to their political corners, and like you said, I'm going to do, and this isn't affecting me. This is them. And I can make this argument. The babies, we're going to save the babies. I mean,
yeah, if you're not appointing people who are supposed to be in charge of their thing, that just makes our ready capacity obviously less than ideal. And if you're a pro-life person, obviously you don't want your military have any kind of setbacks and prepared readiness, and which might actually result in more death of your fellow citizens. I mean, it's just the backwards thinking is really becoming devastating to our country.
Well, yeah, man, what a surprise. The military isn't really pro-pregnancy. I mean, it doesn't really like its soldiers pregnant. I mean, who would have thought, Well, we got another issue, man. I hope you can stick around, Ren. I want to get your opinion. We got another issue that's just been really, this was the
before we move on quick, I just want to say one more thing. Is one thing I really dislike about Democrats is how bad they're at messaging. Why this story? Because the three biggest subjects for people in the country right now is women's health care, healthcare, maybe education or something. But obviously, a huge driver what's been bringing people to the polls to the voting booths as we've been seeing is reproductive rights, and how Democrats, how this isn't a national story that's just on every Democrats feed right now is blowing me away, because this is exactly what we're trying to fight against, the cruelty and just not even common sense type of legislation. It's really devastating. But yeah, I just say that real quick.
No, you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you. And again, the most disgusting part about this is it just boils down to frickin' politics. They don't want Kate Cox being the face of this. They want these other women to be the face of it. That's the argument the Republicans want to have. Why are we letting them determine what argument we have? You're right. We should.
Yeah.
This should be.
And they're always in the minority, but somehow Republicans are always controlling the narrative of the conversation, and it drives me nuts. It's about time we go on the offense and really start making them justify their positions, because they're not justifiable in any way. They're not rooted in reality and that common sense or even kindness or empathy. It's just cruelty to the and that's the entire point of these people. It's just to be cruel. But anyway,
Absolutely.
we can move
like
on.
old, like, hey, and remember I told you, best audience, they're over there having a conversation about this same thing, like old Silver here saying it's about control. It's about, I mean, it's just,
yeah,
you're right. And we need to be on the offensive a hell of a lot more. Speaking of positions, this next story, it really, really pisses me off when our side screws up. It really does. When they put me on the same,
this is the woman that couldn't say that it was harassment for calling for the genocide of Jews, right?
Yeah. This is the thing, man. When you put me on the same side as Elise Stefanik, you're pissing me the fuck off. You really are. I mean, this was so easy. This was a walk in the park, easy. There was testimony last week. We had Liz Magill, Claudine Gay, and Sally Kornbluth giving testimony last week before Congress. And what should have been the story coming out of this is, hey, 3 of our greatest teaching institutions in this country are run by women. I mean, how freaking amazing is that?
Right.
They screwed it up. They blew it. They screwed it all up with just an easy, slow pitch, over the plate question.
Even white supremacists that hate Jewish people know that, they're smart enough to, not even like talk about that because, they don't want to expose themselves or something. I realized I went through like 5 hours of questioning. And they try to answer a moral question with legality stuff or whatever, but it was obviously just a setup question, and it was just an easy question to answer, and not put yourself under a microscope and not have to become fucking unemployed afterwards.
The question was really simple: is calling for the genocide of Jewish people against your university's policy?
Yeah.
Really simple, really freaking simple. And what you're talking about, they tried to get all cerebral about it and started to question themselves. Well, what situation would, well, there could be a discussion. Well, there could be, I would need to know no, the answer was yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
it wasn't an issue of free speech or anything like that. It was just like, hey, do you consider this bullying harassment? Obviously calling for the genocide of any particular race, creed, religion, or whatever is an easy answer if you're not a psychopath.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It was such an easy answer. Calling for the genocide of any group on our campus is against our rules and will result in disciplinary action. Yeah. But instead, it's the same people that I've got coming into my social media are like, well, how could you say that? Because, in this political situation and what's going on in Israel and this, that, and the other. No. Well, we're not complicating it.
Yeah, even to your point, there's still plenty of Jewish people that are protesting their own government. So, I mean, you're putting a mark on those people that might have an agreement with you that want to see peace in the area.
Right. Don't confuse the issue. Don't make it deeper than it is. This was such a slow, soft, easy pitch over the plate. And now what do you have? You've got Liz Magill's had to resign.
Yeah.
Liz Magill's had to resign. You've got somebody that because they doubled down. They doubled down when they were first hit with it.
And I believe the chair of the board or whatever actually resigned as well, even though they asked him to stay on to help transition to a new president, but he left as well. Because I didn't know UPenn was a private school. It's actually private, even despite the name. So, so people signed on to her for her to resign, calling for her to resign. People that are on the board and stuff like that.
When you hear about Wharton School of Business, that's UPenn. That's where this was driven out of.
Yeah.
That's their big draw because it's such a popular school with executives and whatnot. They want their kids.
You would have thought Sandusky might have hurt their numbers for people attending, but it's still a very popular school.
And I hate to be cynical, but I think part of this is
what's that?
Is numbers, just numbers. They're looking at, okay, what's the future? You've got 15 million, almost 16 million Jewish people in the entire world. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. You've got almost 2 billion Muslim people in the entire world. Not all Muslims hate Jews. Not saying that. I'm going to pull your teeth on that freaking argument. Not you, but the people that make this stupid freaking argument. You can't say all Muslims. I'm not. But there is a strain of hate and dislike for Israel within the Muslim world. There is.
Of course.
Because of their religious leaders. There's only just short of 16 million Jews in the world, but hey, they're the ones causing all the problems for nearly 2 billion Muslims. That's just what they sell. A lot of them, they do. They just do. We've seen these radicalized groups all over the place in the anti-American stuff. Okay. I think Harvard, MIT, UPenn, the entire university systems have looked at this and said, okay, look, the numbers are there. If we want to grow our student body in the future, we're not going to grow it with Jews. We're not, because there's just not that many. If we could just capture the Muslim market, and they tried to soften this up instead of just saying, okay, we're not going to make this about Jews. We're not going to make this about any group. Any group. You cannot call for the genocide of any group on our campus.
And enough for nothing, you're on a campus with many people with different religions. It's, keep your religion to yourself. One thing that kills me about Christians is how they're always pushing it down the throat. But if they would just read Matthew 6:5 and realize that your relationship between the Father and you in your own bedroom and not out on the street corner trying to shove it down people's throats. And if all religions could abide by that, we would live in a much better society. But, to placate the people's religious views and what's supposed to be not a secular society, but we're the first nation to disassociate ourselves with religion. Now it's what made our revolution so special. If people could just follow those line of thinking and just let other people do the thing, we would obviously be in a much better position. But you have a point about trying to placate to certain demographics because they are a majority and they are worried about obviously their tuition and people applying and stuff like that. So they're trying to, you're not wrong in that aspect.
But, I hate to be that cynical about it. I do. But,
most big problems you look at in the world, if you're going to look at it, a lot of times at the bottom of it, it's all about money.
Amen. That is the truth. That is the truth. And it really just, I tell you, I hate it. I really hate that we Democrats, we blow it so many damn easy ones. This should just spike the ball in the damn end zone, man. That's all you got to do. Instead, you run up.
Democrats shoot themselves in the foot when they have an upper hand and just give the narrative back to Republicans so they can just kind of control all the chowderheads and with their bumper sticker slogans. It really sets us back quite a bit. And that's why I said earlier that Democrats are terrible at messaging, and they always have been.
Liz Magill was running UPenn.
Yeah.
Claudine Gay is running Harvard, president of Harvard. Sally Kornbluth was running MIT. Talk about a great story, man. Three women, powerful women presidents running these university programs.
Yeah, these are universities.
That should have been the story coming out of here.
These universities were dominated by men since their beginning, and a long time women even were allowed to, attend them and stuff. So the fact that you got women taking over and stuff and making the same mistakes men would make, it's not a good look. It really was a softball question. I don't even care what her actual views are in her personal life. You're in Congress, you're on the national spotlight and you're going to make news headlines. And that was a 5-hour testimony. And the only thing that anyone ever knows is that one thing that she said. And now she's unemployed and she probably won't be able to get back into the industry. even if she was good at her job.
Look, I got one more story I want to run by. I really want you to take on this because I know you care about fitness. I know you care about health.
Sure.
We've got something. This is just getting no national traction. It really isn't. It's one of those, 6-page stories. We have had a rash of lead poisoning breakout. They found 118 cases so far in children. And they're deeply afraid that it's actually far worse than what we originally considered. Here, this is what's going on. Yeah. This is what's going on. We've got, those little applesauce packets that kids love so much? Yeah. Okay. Well, what they found out is they had a family in North Carolina. It's been happening. It's in 31 states. You know it's going to get worse because so far they've only got 31 states involved. It will be all 50 states before they're done. But a family in North Carolina, their child started to have some health problems. They took them to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician was looking and said, "Look, man, way too many of these symptoms are common in lead poisoning. Let's go ahead and do some tests and see, what are we looking at?" The symptoms for lead poisoning are headaches, stomach cramps, constipation, muscle joint pain, trouble sleeping, fatigue, irritability, depression. And these kids are just banging these symptoms out in spades, right? So they tested, found out, not only do they have lead poisoning, they've got extreme lead poisoning. So they bring in a specialist from the North Carolina Health and Human Services Department. He is an environmental health specialist. And this is why I'm pro-government, dude. This is why I'm pro-government.
Of course.
There's a guy there in North Carolina. If it wasn't for this one freaking guy, this would have never made it to the FDA. If it had never made it to the FDA, we wouldn't know about all these other kids because the FDA this wasn't even on their radar. Okay. Yeah. So the guy's name is Alan Honeycutt, right? So he goes to their house. He tests the paint. He tests the water. He tests their soil. He tests every freaking thing these kids are touching and coming in contact with. Cannot find lead anywhere. I mean, just anywhere. I mean, they're at their wits' end. And he calls back the parents and he's like, with some test results, and they're like, "Man, we're going to have to come back out and retest everything because we're just not finding it." And the mom's like, "Well, I forgot to mention this, but his favorite snack is applesauce." And he's like, "Okay, well, we'll test that when we get there too." They test the kids' applesauce, and this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about.
And it begs the question: what is the FDA even looking at then? And not to say, I mean, I'm for the FDA and stuff, but I mean, you have to think about too, if the shoe was on the other foot, would this even be a situation right now as you got Republicans that are trying to disband these type of agencies?
Amen, brother. You're getting to where you're laying down exactly where I'm going with this, man. We've got these apples. Weiss is a grocery store. Schnucks is a grocery store. The Wanna Banana is sold at Sam's and Walmart, and this is going to be nationwide. Okay, sure. This is how this breaks down. All right, This is how this breaks down. You have grocery stores. You trust your grocery stores to have safe products. I mean, you do. You don't. To actually test, find out. Well,
of course,
the grocery stores, they go to a distributor. In this case, it was a distributor by the name of Purcell International. Purcell sells to the grocery stores that they test their products. They do. Our products are safe. We test them. Purcell International wasn't responsible for this. The FDA gets involved, and they're going down the tree, okay? And I'm going to walk you down the tree. They went from the grocery stores, found nothing wrong. Then they went to where the grocery stores got these products. That's Purcell International. All of these stores, and folks, I want you to pay attention. This is your food tree here. This is where it's so important. Goes to Purcell International. Purcell International says, we buy those packets from a company called Ostrofood. Ostrofood is a factory in Ecuador. Okay. Yeah. Ecuador They go down to Ecuador. The FDA says, gets in contact. This is why I'm so freaking pro-government, dude. So freaking pro-government. The FDA gets in touch with the government of Ecuador. They've got no authority there whatsoever. The government of Ecuador says, hey, come on down. We're going to help you out. Diplomacy, my friend, diplomacy.
Yeah.
They go down to Ostro Food. They take samples. They do the testing. It's not Ostro Food. It's not. They didn't do this.
Oh.
So, but they found the lead there. But they're like, okay, there's nothing that Ostro Food could have done that could result in this kind of lead contamination. Let me give you an idea what scale we're talking about, okay? The way lead I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I lied. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, okay? Because this is actually a good story, man. So Ostro Food says, well, look, it's only in this one product. It's not in the banana. It's not in the guava. It's not in the mango. It's only in apple cinnamon. So let's take a look at the apples. They look at the apples, nothing there. They take a look at the cinnamon. Bingo. Boom. This stuff has 500 times the allowable lead. And people freak out when you talk about allowable. Dude, when you crack eggs in a bowl and you hit it with a metal whisk, you're putting metal in your eggs, dude. Your body's designed to deal with a certain amount of contaminants. If you did it in a plastic bowl, you'd be putting a little bit of plastic in your food. But it's so negligible, your body just shoots it out, right? This was so much freaking lead. They didn't even bother to look at the trees where the cinnamon comes from. Okay. They went back to the cinnamon supplier. Bingo, found it there. Huge amounts of lead. That they went from Astro Food to a company called Negasmart, which is also in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Negasmart's cinnamon was massively contaminated with lead. They're like, okay, now we're screwed. We don't know where to go from here because there's nothing in Negasmart's factory or warehouses that could have caused this kind of lead. And we know on the far end of it, let me go to the map. This is where your cinnamon comes from, folks. Primarily Sri Lanka, India, China, Vietnam. We're talking Southeast Asia. We're talking this part of the world right here. When you buy cinnamon, this is where it comes from, right? And the way that you get your cinnamon, is they will take a mature cinnamon tree. They'll cut it off at the base. It will shoots up, and those young immature branches, they'll peel the bark off of in sections. And when they dry it out in the sun, it curls up and you get that traditional cinnamon looking. That's real. That's not kasha. That's real cinnamon, how it gets to you. The American Spice Trader Association got involved in this. And normally that's a bad thing. When you get like an industry group involved, that's a bad thing. But they were actually very helpful in this because they were like, no freaking way this came from the farmers. Not this level. No way. You could grow a freaking cinnamon tree in a vat of lead-filled water, and it could not deposit in its bark enough lead to account for how much lead was in the cinnamon.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, this is
extent the story went.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the thing. This is the part that just blows my head up, dude. They're stuck between Negasmart and Ecuador and the cinnamon providers somewhere between the frickin' tree and Negasmart. This cinnamon got so much freaking lead in it that it's poisoning our kids. We're talking about acute lead poisoning, not I found out when he was 18 because the kid was slow and voted Republican, that he had lead poisoning. I mean, we're talking about acute lead poisoning, right?
Yeah. And they don't know. They don't know what the fault is. And
they can't because
maybe it's something with shipping or something. I don't know. I mean, that's
what they're trying to. That's what they're trying to figure out. But here's the problem, dude. Okay, that's the chain of your food. The next time you go to the grocery store and you see a box of something that you want to buy or something like that, just remember, that is what's going on with our food these days.
Yeah, and
we have so lost.
That's why I told you, and I encourage anyone who goes grocery shopping, just stick on the outsides of the grocery store and skip all the middle ones where the boxes are.
I agree with you 100%, man. I agree with you. But I'm freaking terrified because again, this wasn't the applesauce. This
Right.
wasn't the grocery store's fault. Although I have to say, every one of them said they were testing their products
Of course.
and they were safe.
Yeah.
And none of them were.
Yeah.
None of them were.
And
Everybody that
FDA. I mean, if you're gonna be looking at anything, you should be looking at kids' food. I don't know what exactly they're looking for, but if you're gonna be looking at anything, I would imagine priority would be looking at, very young children's fucking what they're consuming. I mean, we had to put the FDA in there's a reason why we have all these agencies in the first place, because people were abusing these things. I think the FDA was created in 1906. I know it was created by Roosevelt. I forget the exact year, but it's because our shit was getting poisoned and everything, and it was all about making money. So they'll put anything they can to to sell and not have to deal with any kind of waste. And
it goes back to Upton Sinclair in the jungle, and that story of Teddy Roosevelt when he was eating sausage in the White House, reading The Jungle from Upton Sinclair, grabs the sausage off his plate and throws it out the damn door out into the grass, screaming he's been poisoned because he got to that section of The Jungle where Upton Sinclair went to work in the meatpacking industry to write this undercover tell-all book, and he was talking about how they would poison the rats in the factories, in the sausage making factories. Then whenever they would collect the dead rats, they would throw the rats, the poisoned bread, and everything into the hoppers and make sausage out of it. Yeah, the FDA came along for a reason.
Yeah, and a real reason, and there's still plenty of people that try and undermine it. You'll see, every now and then, like a Republican president getting in, all of a sudden Monsanto's the head of the FDA or something like that, and a lot of things go on under the radar because obviously corporate profits are number one in America, but it's really good that someone caught on to this before it became a bigger problem, which is obviously going to become a bigger problem because whenever we first, figure out something's going on, it's always end up being bigger than it's supposed to, just more or less to try and keep the public.
That's the whole point of where I'm going with this. That's the whole point of where I'm going with this is, look, I get it. Regulations for a small business are a pain in the ass. I mean, you want to become you start a bakery and all of a sudden your cupcakes catch on. You want to go national. Well, you've been making cupcakes locally and a lot of these regulations just don't apply to you. But when you go nationally and you start producing on an industrial scale, all of a sudden you have to not just know about freaking cupcakes. You have to understand, you've got to have a freaking chemistry degree, man, to deal with these regulations. You do. And I understand, but this is why.
Yeah,
this is why, because these are megacorps. Negasmart is huge. They supply the people that do the manufacturing. I mean, they're huge.
Now, the
distributor's huge.
In the country, because the cinnamon goes all around. Is there any other countries reporting this lead problem with the applesauce and stuff?
We're just in the beginning of it. And I'm telling you, I've got 2 jars of freaking cinnamon in there that I am just like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It might be just an American problem. If you look at Europe, they got really strict things that you can put in your food and stuff. They're much more organic or, more farm to table type places. I mean, when I was in Italy, the ingredients are so simple, but the food tastes unbelievably good. And every time I travel outside the country, I've always lost weight. I've always been less bloated. I can always digest things easy. Obviously, we have the FDA for a reason, but I mean, there's a lot of corruption that goes along with it, and especially depending on what administration's in there. A lot of people look the other way for a little check underneath the table for them. So I mean, it's really a fucked up thing, and I can't believe the amount of people that's going to be affected by this.
Yeah, I mean, because it's 118, they're just scratching the surface. Olga Martinez here puts a great comment out there. We got California food regs as well. Olga, Purcell is a California corporation. The distributor that was supposed to be doing the testing and didn't catch this is, 1, making no public statements about this at all, and 2, are a California corporation. So yeah, the people that are supposed to be doing, that's why I'm telling you, man, I get it. Regulation. Everybody hates regulation, but this bullshit from Republicans that every industry that'll write them a check, they will do everything they can to kill every bit of regulation.
Yeah.
This is why we have it, folks.
Yeah, the
this
FDA
is
is
why.
important. The EPA is just as important, even though, you know, Trump was in there. He put the head of Exxon in there. I mean, how freaking ridiculous is that? But, you know, these things were created for a reason. And if you take them away, there's going to be a lot of problems in your health. And you think your health care is expensive now. Wait until they get rid of the FDA and EPA.
And I tell you, man, like they're talking in the chat, there's differing opinions here. There's people that are like, hey, let's not panic about this, that, and the other. And that's what the FDA is saying. It says, man, your cinnamon's fine. We track this down to a source. Your cinnamon is fine. But I'm sitting there saying, look, you're telling me you track this down to a source, but you didn't track it down to a source because you can't tell me how this person, this source, their cinnamon got contaminated. You're telling me you don't know. You can't know because, you know, the cinnamon.
You weren't tested for it in the fucking first place, which we're, you know, and everyone always talks about our most precious commodity that we have is our children. And, you know, the way we actually treat and care for our children would say will beg the difference.
So, yeah, to wrap this one up, brother, I'm going to tell you government is good. And I wish I could have punched Ronald Reagan in the throat with his government is bad bullshit. Yeah. Because I'm telling you, it was a guy in North Carolina that believed in his job, that really believed that his job was important. When he got hired to work for the government, it wasn't to collect a paycheck. It was because he believed in what he was doing and he did his frickin' job. And because he did his frickin' job, kids all over this country will not have long-term developmental problems because of this guy. I mean, I don't know how to put it any more bluntly, more.
And to your point, government. Yeah, and to your point, government isn't good or bad. It's the people you put in charge of it, and you get what you pay for. Essentially, if you're putting bad people in just because they have a certain political stature next to their name and don't actually look into the type of person they are, you're going to get what you pay for. And unfortunately, no matter how bad things get, we get what we deserve. What
a crazy damn thought. If you elect people into government that hate government, don't want government, your government's going to suck.
Extremely against.
All right, man. On a lighter subject, I want to get your opinion on this. And then we're going to go to the round table.
Realize it can always get
worse. If you can hang out, great.
It can always get worse.
Yeah, it can always get worse, especially when you elect people that hate government because they're not going to do the damn job. On the lighter side, brother, I want your opinion on this one.
If you put people who hate government, it's a good thing my wife's not in the room because she's the biggest Swiftie person ever. I can't remember. But no, I've been listening to Taylor Swift every fucking day for the last, 15 years because my wife is the biggest Swift person in the world. And to see how successful
she's a Swiftie, huh?
And to see how successful it's become. I've never liked it. The music, I never cared for her as a person. I just never into that kind of music. I've been listening to my wife sing it for 15 years now. It makes my head want to explode. And now she just keeps coming out with the same albums. It's the same songs over and over again. That's a different story. But how successful she's been. This woman is like an entire economy wherever she goes. And just watching her actually be successful on the back of her talent and not be a sellout or anything like that. I mean, she made a comeback because all her music was bought from out underneath her by, I believe, the Soros family, actually. And so, she went on a tear to redo her own music, and she's created this fucking following. She's busting all these records, and she's cross-generational and everything. She's an actual real force to be reckoned with. And, watching, and, she got so many people to sign up to vote, and watching Republicans try and attack this woman. I'm like, do you have any idea what you're fucking with right now? You're going to go up to Taylor Swift, dude? You are out of your fucking mind, dude. I see my wife in action for 15 years. You are not going to shut these women up. You might as well just listen to what they have to say and get along with it or get out of the way because they're going to run you over.
That's what I wanted to hear from you, man, is politically, how freaking stupid is this? I mean, the misogynistic crap that we're seeing pumped through, especially on Shitter or X-Chan, as I like to call it.
And then not to mention the funniest part, that the people that shit on her the most call themselves Christians. She is a Christian. I mean, she's a Christian from Tennessee. You know, she loves Jesus. You know, it's really wild. It's really wild to watch them go after one of the biggest forces in the world right now. I mean, this woman is just globally recognized and superior, and they think they're going to take this woman on, and it's like, dude, you have no idea what you're messing with.
Watch what you say, dude. The Swifties are in the audience, and they will cut you, man.
Swifties, I respect you. Please don't come after me. My wife is one of you. My wife is one of you. Actually, I told my wife at this. So our 10-year anniversary. We've been together for 18 years. Our 10-year anniversary is next May, and she just got her MBA. So I surprised her with tickets to go see Taylor Swift in Paris. So we're doing that for our 10th anniversary. So don't come at me quickly. I'm actually going to go see her in Paris. That's right. I bought my wife tickets to go see Taylor Swift sing Paris in Paris. So eat your heart out. All right.
Awesome, man. That is freaking great, dude. That is freaking great.
But she's really something.
I don't mean to drag up in cross subjects here, but you know, the point you made about food and the rest of the world being different, you know, our isolationism is a problem for us. It is. You know, in Brazil, Fanta soda, you know, soda water.
Soda,
it's got real freaking fruit juice in it, man. Not citric acid or anything. I mean, freaking fruit juice.
Yeah.
In the soda. And the Brazilians, they won't accept anything less.
Yeah,
they won't.
And if you travel to Brazil or any other country, whether they're a third world country or a developed country or whatever, they're much more healthier of a populace. It's the food they consume, and we're allowed. And you know, we've so much regulation has been taken away that the amount of stuff that we put in our food, it's almost like a science project. It gets to a point. But you start traveling to Europe or even the Caribbean and stuff. I've been to Jamaica. The food there, the fruit, Jesus Christ. The explosion of flavor. I mean, it tastes different.
Well, yeah, man, it's not flavored with late stage capitalism. J-Dye says, which is more expensive, the Swift tickets or the trip to Paris?
Actually, well, I was looking at trying to get tickets for obviously, somewhere in the United States, or whatever. It was actually cheaper to buy tickets and fly to Paris than it was to go buy tickets and fly down to like Miami and see her or something.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually cheap. Yeah. I mean, a big part of it is that like we always do like the airline credit cards, and we pay like all our big purchases with a credit card so we can get the miles and stuff. So our flights aren't really costing us anything, but it was cheaper to buy tickets to see Taylor Swift in Paris and actually fly there and stay there than it was to go 3 days to Miami or something.
I'm telling you, man, our isolationism is a problem. You know, our food problem it's driven by late stage capitalism. You know me, man. I am not some dyed in the wool socialist. I am not. When it comes to my politics, I am a flaming liberal. I am, but I believe that the best economies in the world are a balance of some socialism and some capitalism. Yes, socialism absolutely. To handle the stuff that capitalism won't do. Right?
And we were headed in that direction. Yeah, and we were headed in that direction in this country for a long time until the Reagan Revolution put the final nail in the coffin of the New Deal government.
Yeah, and late stage capitalism, dude. Talking about our food, the dirty word that people don't hear if you don't deal in agriculture is inputs. Inputs. A crop is measured by how many inputs it have. How much do you have to put into that crop to get a crop to market? Those inputs, they're talking about costs, man. They're talking about whatever it costs. Like if you want to sell bananas, you can't bruise the crap. The plants are somewhat fragile. Even the genetically modified Cavendish bananas that we have today that don't have seeds in them, it's a delicate fruit. Mangoes have to be picked very carefully. Cherries, everything. Think about the different types of crops, right?
Sure.
Now imagine corn. Corn is one freaking guy in a mega piece of equipment, and he can cake, you don't need a ton of farm hands. It's all automated. So our food industry has worked towards using those crops the most. because there's the most profit in them.
Yeah, and plus you can recycle and feed them to your animals and stuff like that. So I mean, it's used kind of like as a source to feed your cattle as well. And yeah, the corn is the biggest plant that we produce, correct?
I don't. You caught me flat-footed. I don't know what our largest cash crop is right now.
I believe it's corn.
I don't.
But
you know, man, I do know why. I do know why the grains are so popular. I do, and why rice isn't as popular here as it is around the rest of the world, because rice is more difficult to grow.
Yeah,
you can't do it as automated as you can wheat or sorghum or soybeans or anything else that you can grow these crops. One freaking guy in a John Deere can grow as much as it used to take 1,000 guys 50 years ago to grow. Right. I mean, it's that simple. And that's why our processed foods and our supermarkets and everything, it's not they want to poison you, dude.
They want to make a profit.
It's late stage capitalism is what it is. It's been whittling away at it forever and a day. And it wasn't one step. They didn't wake up one day and say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. It was just over time. Every factory modification, everything led to more the crops with the least inputs. I
think Monsanto was a big driver behind that. They put a lot of, because they had the patents on their GMOs, and then there'll be cross contamination with neighboring farmers, and if they get caught with like their seeds and their things, and that can just be crisscrossed because of pollination. Monsanto has a right because they have the patent on those seeds or whatever, and they put a lot of local farmers out of business and made it more of a corporate farming situation.
Yeah, that was huge down when I used to live around Austin. Cotton is really big. It's part of the there's a Brazos River belt there that was just cotton was king. And man, I tell you what, they've got genetically modified seeds that will not reproduce. And these farmers bought into it, so they can't keep a portion. You used to take your cotton to a gin, and part of your pay for your cotton was they would hand you back seeds.
Yeah, right.
For your next year's crop. That's gone, dude. Because those seeds, you can take those seeds all you want, stick them in the ground. They're not going to grow. They're not going to grow because they have to be genetically treated by ConAgra. They have to, or Monsanto, or you know what I mean.
Yeah, and not for nothing, that's kind of a scary concept because you're really starting to push the ecological evolutionary buttons of our own species by doing stuff like that.
What worries me about it, and I hate to get all technical, is students of history. Damn well we're going to have a dark ages eventually.
Yeah.
Those aren't done. Every time we think we're too damn smart and too damn good, Mother Nature kicks us right in the balls and we fall backwards hundreds of years. We do. Yep. It just happens. The next time it happens, we've got these freaking crops, man.
And every time it happens, depending on who you have in charge, it's going to make it that much worse.
Yeah. I mean,
I can't imagine what would have happened during the pandemic if maybe Hillary was in charge and how many maybe less deaths we might have would have had because we would have had administration that actually took it serious from day one.
Well, look, man, at the end of the show, you mind answering a few questions. At the end of the show, I asked the audience, hey, man, whatever we talked about, or if you got any other questions, throw them out there. You got any questions for Boston Smalls? Round table time. I know I've missed the round table in the last couple of shows because I ran along, talked too damn much. We busted over now. Do you have time to stick with us for a few more minutes, man?
Sure do.
But any questions you've got, throw them in the comments and we'll see if we can't get to them. But while we're talking about that, you know me, man, I started way back on TikTok with the Ride or Die Democrat movement. I really did.
Yeah.
And you and I disagree on, so like Israel, you and I kind of disagree on that a little bit. We do.
Yeah. Yes and no, but there's small differences. I mean, I don't know if you want to really get into it or not, but I mean, looking at October 7th, we know for a fact that Israel had those plans for well in advance. It was called Jericho Wall, and actually there was a woman that really raise a red flag on him, like, hey, these people are practicing this, and the only thing that Israel didn't know was the actual day. And her superior, this guy, dismissed it as a complete fucking joke. And then October 7th happened, and they were, Hamas was unimpeded for hours. I mean, they were unimpeded for hours. They did what they wanted for hours. And,
it was a holiday.
Israel's the size of New Jersey, though. It takes a 45-minute plane helicopter ride to go from one end to the other. And these people did what they did for hours. And not for nothing, and this is a very hard thing to talk about because you don't want to come off anti-Semitic. But I'm strictly criticizing the government of Israel right now. And I never liked Benjamin Netanyahu. He's never wanted peace. And he's surrounded himself with the most extreme right-wing people in that government. And not for nothing, but that guy was under a lot of scrutiny leading up to this because he was trying to change the government and, be able to overrule, so the courts couldn't overrule him and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm not trying to go down a conspiracy thing, but I can't help but think that maybe there was a stand-down order. It's devastating to think about, and especially the repercussions. But I mean,
well, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. There was a stand-down order. It was a holiday, dude. It was a holiday. After 2 years of being under a ceasefire, there was a holiday, and everybody just chilled the hell out, man. They did. It was like if they'd Christmas morning they had attacked. I mean, it's really not a conspiracy theory. There was a stand-down order in place. They had sent most everybody home. But that's not where I was going with this. Where I was going with it is, even if we disagree on something, and I didn't disagree with the damn thing you just said there, by the way. I did not. Right now, we are seeing a professional troll movement online. Mm-hmm. You have Genocide Joe trending among the radical left. You have Jihadi Joe trending among the radical right.
Yeah,
and they're making the mirror opposite argument about the same guy.
Yeah, and I think I know where you're going with this, and there's been so much foreign propaganda push on this that we saw the same division and split when Russia first went into Ukraine, and the effort and the propaganda that's been set out through bot farms and social media and stuff to try and get the public against staying up against Russia. I see that a lot splitting with this Israel situation. I see a lot of that being targeted at the left and having the same kind of impact.
I wanted to get your thought on this thought.
What's that?
Nobody's worth it. No one outside our borders is worth it. Dividing up our party, people saying they're going to stay home and not vote.
Yeah.
What will happen here will be so damn evil if the Republicans get their hands back on power.
Anyone that knows,
nobody is worth it.
The things that Trump has been saying lately, and not for nothing, even just the Republican Party as a whole, is so goddamn dystopian. And so many people for so long have been like, no, it can never happen here. It can never happen here. You're watching it happen, and it's really hard to be like such an alarmist because it kind of scares people and stuff. But it's something that people really need to confront on a real basis, because you're talking about a party that's completely aligned himself with Christian nationalists, and you're talking about theocracy, everything our country fought to get away from. The revolution, our founding documents weren't radical in the aspect that it was about human rights and representative government. You can see that in the ancient world, or even more recently, 1525 during the Peasant War, when people demanded representative government, the end of serfdom, workers' rights, stuff like that. What made us so different, what changed the world, was the fact that we separated ourselves from religion. The first ones to do so in pretty much the history of the fucking world. I don't know about Far East and the Mongolians and stuff like that, but I'm talking when it comes to the Western civilization, that was what changed the world and actually helped inspire the French Revolution. And in fact, the French want to restart their calendar and start from day zero and get rid of any mention of the word Christianity in their country. And to see our Republican leaders in arms with these people, and they're very close to, Trump gave them more power than we could ever imagine back in 2016. I honestly, when he got elected, I didn't think it could get as bad as it did, but how is able to take over the Supreme Court and give them that branch and stuff like that. It is devastating. And when you're talking about what they're trying to do, you're talking about a pre-civil rights era. When you go back to the end of 1800s, early 1900s, you're talking about the Gilded Age, and that's when people had zero workers' rights. There was actually the Battle of Blair Mountain that happened in 1921 because work conditions were so bad. 10,000 people actually took on the government, and it was the biggest land battle that ever took place on American soil since the Civil War and since. They were actually bombing people. I mean, there's a lot of people fucking died during that. And then you're talking about like a Jim Crow apartheid state type era. You're talking about very little rights for minorities, black people, women. And you're seeing that already with Roe v. Wade. It's devastating to watch. And you have to understand what this country was before we started making all this progress in the 1900s. And that's exactly what they're trying to roll back right now. Roe v. Wade was just a small step in a larger project. And that's what people have to understand. They're trying to re-implement a cruel racial hierarchy with maximum profits. And, and at the same time, this also coincides with why there's such an attack on public education right now, because you got people that can think for themselves. They're not going to fall in line, and they have to keep them dumb and dependent on Jesus. So that way they accept the shit conditions that they're about to receive.
And you're dead on, man. You're dead on. That is exactly how I feel about it. We just, people in this country, again, our isolationism is a problem. People in this country don't understand how rare these rights are in the world. I mean, folks, the way we look at women, the way we look at women's rights, you don't owe us shit. You're not our birth vessels. You're here to live your best life, not be part of my program. That's not what you're here for. Yeah. That is not something that is normal worldwide. It really isn't. Yeah. And I just can't stress to people enough, especially you ask, how can women go along with this on the right? You don't understand what you're giving up and how hard they're fighting to end this, because this is not normal.
Yeah. And if you want to look, and for women, if you want to look at the kind of future that you're going to be looking at, look no further than like Afghanistan or some of these other places in the Middle East, or in Iran, just what was it, like last year or whatever, when they're unaliving all these women because they let their hair down and all of these people are protesting. You're talking about state-sanctioned murder because they're stepping out of religious law. This is what theocracy means. And the people
over here
who speak for God are the ones that are going to be able to take away your rights. And who speaks for God? It could be Donald Trump. It could be Martin Luther King Jr. We don't know. It also depends on the geography. Are you in Indiana? Are you in India? Are you in Iran? 3 different places, 3 different fucking gods. Don't ever let anyone tell you that your rights come from God. They don't. They come. Our constitutional system is based on human rights because we are in fact human, and it's a much better system. Do not let them change this. And if you let them back in power, this is what they're trying to do.
Caston here asks, Paul, what do you think about Putin praising Republicans for blocking aid to Ukraine? You want to take a bite on that one?
I think it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, the Putin party, man. I'm telling you, it's money. It's money. Russia pours money into the Republican Party. They did it through the NRA. They do it through, they have gotten really adept at laundering money into the American system so that it can go into political donations, and these Republicans drink it up, brother. They drink it up.
See how many people are actually involved with Russian money when 2020 was leading up, because the world markets are going down. Actually, no, right before the war. I'm sorry, not 2020, but right before the war started, like down in Florida, for example, when the war started, they're trying to get DeSantis to pull the I believe it's the teachers or whatever. It was one of the programs for not 401k pensions. They had a bunch of pension money lined up in Russian banks, and he refused to pull it out because it'll be over soon.
They still haven't, by the way.
They still haven't, and now that money's worthless pretty much. And that happened. Man, that happened in Florida. That's happened in a few Republican places now.
Oh yeah, you go back to before Trump took office, and read what our corporate press was pushing. China is the future. This is China century, man. Russia, are they arguably the strongest country on the planet now? I mean, all of these things were just being spoken about. You've got to do business in Russia, man. You've got to do business in Russia. I mean, all of these things that if you go back and you read them today, you're like, you're freaking idiots, man. You're idiots. But man, they spoke it as God. They spoke it as though it was gospel. And the corporate media, Hal Sparks. I go on Hal Sparks' show every once in a while. I don't know if you follow Hal Sparks or not. Guy's really freaking smart. Spends a lot of time in China. Knows China backwards and forward, man.
Yeah.
I am telling you, the insanity of what was being said about investing in China was just, I mean, literally every valuation was printed out of the government.
You ever see
I mean,
the
it was
ghost
just,
cities they have over there in China? You ever see the ghost cities?
yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, people, I want you to look at that. If you want to know why China's economy is crashing right now, Google
the
ghost
population's
cities
upside
in
down.
China.
Yeah, and
Huh?
the population's upside down as well. They have a terrible birthing rate problem.
No.
But back to the Israel, and that's one aspect that people aren't really realizing is that, like, when they talk about how Russia was so dominant and powerful, obviously the war in Ukraine is shown otherwise. They are not anywhere near our fucking level. And Putin really needed a distraction. Now we have multiple reports of Trump administration releasing our allies' secrets, and specifically Israel. Not to mention the whole, the documents case, and you had all these documents just hanging out wherever in a hotbed full of fucking spies. That is Mar-a-Lago and New Jersey and stuff like that. And you can't help but think that maybe a lot of Hamas's planning was due to secrets being leaked, because obviously Iran backs Hamas, and obviously Russia and Iran are strategic partners, and that's also a very scary implication as well. And because when you look at the Christian nationalists, even though they want Israel, they support Israel's existence, they only want that so they can help usher in their fucking Messiah and bring the end of the world, because it's a death cult. And the evangelical movement in our country, they back Israel, but they're probably the most anti-Semitic group in the country.
Dude, I watched this insane documentary. There's an entire neighborhood of offices. It's like a region in Jerusalem where it's foreign evangelical groups have rented offices so that they can be near the Valley of Parmagida when the coming happens, and they can be there. I mean, it is literally, and the number of churches here in the United States that your tithing goes to pay for them, because they're like, okay, we've got to do all the things to make sure that this final battle happens. I mean, it was just, I was like, no.
Because you got to remember, part of that prophecy of their Messiah coming back is also that either Jewish people have to convert to Christianity, or a lot of them are going to be, they're going to be murdered and be condemned to hell. I mean, that's part of this prophecy, and why so many Christians are so about Israel and wanting all the Israelis to return to Israel so they can have their Messiah return to us, which is just absolutely fucking insane.
The hilarious part, dude, I wish I could remember the name of this documentary. It's gonna drive me nuts for like 2 weeks until I figure out the name of this so I can tell you folks. But the hilarious part was they have tours, right? In Israel, they have tours, and they bring you by this neighborhood to make fun of these people. To make fun of them. They're like, yeah, they inject, and I can't remember how much it is they inject into the economy, man, but it was like millions of dollars every year they inject into the local Israel, and the Israelis are like, you're freaking idiots. But yeah, by all means, give us your money. Come rent this premium office space so that you can have your Armageddon, man. Sure. Yeah, it's going to come any day now. Write me a check.
That's brutal. It's brutal. It's just brutal. I mean, I've the older I get, the more I read about history, especially religious history, the more I am just so anti-organized religion. And I'm not particular towards one or the other. I mean, I dislike them all very equally.
You know, I know a couple people that are real dyed-in-the-wool Christians. I mean, I don't mean like Christian fascists. I mean like George Stramiska. If you ever hear the show, George, I love you, brother. This guy is a real Christian. I mean, he lives it.
Yeah.
Lives it. Yeah. I mean, he's the kind of guy that he doesn't hate gay people because his God told him to love everybody.
Yeah, right.
He's like, I want to, I'm very worried about your quality of life. I'm very worried about how your life is going to end up. I don't agree with your life choices, but good God, it's my job to make sure you have the best life possible. And that's the way he looks at things, So yeah. So he's still got that religious, I can't agree with that because the Bible tells me thing,
right?
But there's no hate in the man at all. At all. There's a few out there. So no, I don't have a problem with a real dyed-in-the-wool Christian. And I don't have a problem with a real dyed-in-the-wool Muslim either. So much of that faith is perverted and twisted and warped. There's nothing in the Quran about 72 virgins.
The people that actually follow their faith keep to themselves because that's what their faith tells them, especially Christianity. Your relationship with the Father is between you and him. Or Matthew 6:5 that makes fun of people for worshiping on the street corner because you're just full of shit. And that relationship between you and God, not to brag or whatever on the street corner.
Your religion ends at the end of your nose. That's But so many of these people.
Yeah, and that's the type of country that was trying to be built, is to keep that separate, because the founders knew exactly how bad the churches were, because they ran everything for centuries. They were nation states.
They were running from the Church of England,
kings or whatever.
They were running from the Church of England, where the king said, "I am now the arbiter of God. I will no longer have fealty to this Catholic Church. We will have our own church, and I will rule from God to me, to you. I am," and that's what they were running from. They wrote into the Constitution freedom from religion.
Yes.
I mean, that's what it was all about, because they have seen it. They had seen it happen.
Yeah. So when Mike Pence was like, we got, freedom of religion, but not freedom from religion, my head almost exploded. That you got politicians saying stuff like that. But then, of course, you also got, Mike Johnson talking about how God put us all this, God put us in all these positions, except for when it comes to the presidential race. Apparently, God was wrong that one day, and they're trying to redo God's will because, they try to overturn the election, which is.
Did you hear? We talked about this last week.
Say that. It just, I don't know, these guys.
We talked about this last week. Did you hear what he said? What Mike Johnson, I call him Preacher Johnson, the preacher of the House. Did you hear what he said?
When?
When somebody tells me they talk to God, I think, okay, you're praying. That's what you're doing. You're talking to God. Okay, whatever. But when God starts answering you back, he said, God told him during the early tribulations of McCarthy and whatnot, God told him, stay back. This isn't your time. Stay back.
Anyone
but then God,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Then God told him, now is your time. Step forward. You are to lead. You are to be their Moses. And he believes that God has told him that he is our Moses.
Yeah. Anyone listening, anyone tells you they heard from God, do not elect them to any kind of political office, please. That is not a good person.
But I mean, I can't let that go, dude. The Speaker of the House hears God talk to him.
Yeah. What's one of the funnier documentaries I've seen? It came out on Hulu. It was about the Falwell Jr. guy, and how because obviously Michael Cohen's job was to dig up dirt for anyone Trump. That's how Trump does business, right? He gets leverage on everyone, and it's crazy that Trump was able to get the evangelical vote simply because Michael Cohen figured out that Jerry Falwell Jr.'s wife was humping the pool boy while he sat in the chair and watched. And that was the whole reason why Trump was able to get that evangelical vote before any other one else during that race. And it's just that's the top of the food chain when it comes to the evangelicals. Obviously, we know his father and what he meant to the whole movement and everything like that. But all these people who, especially the people who viciously push moral objection to things, are always the ones with the biggest skeletons in their closet.
Oh yeah, you think Joel Osteen? Everybody's like, "Oh, he is just a Boy Scout. He's just a boy." You think tasting that Ferrari is the only forbidden fruit?
I
That dude
guarantee that
is
guy has an entire room like the 50 Shades of Grey movie where it's just like a sex dungeon. I swear to God, you know that guy has that.
I don't know, but I know. You're dead on, man. You're dead on. That dude, I look at that dude and I listen to him talk and I'm like, that's a freak. That dude is a freak. There is some really weird shit in that dude's closet, man.
Do you know where these mega churches came from in this country? It's actually Ben Franklin. And what's funny about it is because Ben Franklin's a Freemason. He stood against the order of the day, monarchy, the church, and stuff like that. And but he loved making money. And of course, he had a big part in the printing press, the Philadelphia Gazette and stuff like that. So one of his friends came over. I believe his name was George Mason, big evangelical preacher. So they made it into like this gigantic spectacle. They followed him around, and it was just in the newspapers, headlines every day, and people were traveling all across. And Ben Franklin actually made a fortune off of this. But he's the reason why these mega church superstars started to come in existence in this country. It was fucking Ben Franklin. It's just trying to make a buck.
Yeah. Ben Franklin's a trip, man. That's why I love history. That's why I absolutely love history. Ben Franklin was, talk about a freak, man.
Yeah, he was, and he's the one that said to see by faith is to shut the eye of reason. I mean, this guy never believed in any of that stuff, but he knew how to make money, and he knew how susceptible and gullible people were. Ben
Franklin was tapping ass all over the world. He was, man. That was part of his diplomacy, man. Is he would he was having freaking affairs with everybody. That's why they sent him to France.
There was a couple of founders that did that too. The actual, James Madison is considered to be the father of the Constitution, but the guy that actually wrote it, pen to paper, was Governor Morris. That's it, or Governor. But he was in trouble all the time. He actually had a peg leg because he got an accident. But he was going around sleeping with women and adulterer and like sleeping with guys' wives and stuff. That guy had a lot of people after him. But he was an incredibly intelligent man, and he's the one that came up with "We the People of the United States" on top of that Constitution and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, these people were far from perfect creatures. Well, look, man, I sure appreciate you hanging out as long as you did. I know we ran over longer than I promised you we would.
Oh, no worries. I'm having a fun time.
But I'm glad you could be here. We're gonna wrap it up. It's Sunday. It's time for the football. My Texans are playing at noon. Kicking off here in about half an hour, and I got to go get the snacks ready.
The real deal, man. That CJ Stroud looks like the real deal.
I'm telling you, man, CJ Stroud is just
that kid can ball.
Every week he's impressed me. Every once in a while you'll see a rookie mistake. You'll see that rookie mistake.
Be growing pains, but the talent and and the discipline's there. He's going to be really good.
But as a rookie, he is playing. My wife said they're pushing buttons. She's a huge Cowboys fan. Yeah, but CJ Stroud, man, he is really playing at a level that is far superior than many veteran quarterbacks in this league already. And he's, and we've got 5 weeks left in the season.
Yeah, no,
this is your first season.
The Texans are in a really good spot for the next couple of years, especially the young wide receivers that Tank Dell kids. I mean, obviously it's terrible his injury and stuff, but they got some really good building blocks. They're gonna be a force in that division for a while. So that's cool.
It's weird. As a Texans fan, this is odd. This is difficult because you're like, do I really want to get excited? Because I know they're going to break my heart, man. I know they're going to. Oh shit, they won. I could have got excited. I mean, it's weird. It's weird, Reverend. The chat is saying thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here.
All right.
Great conversation as always, my friend.
You can follow me on Smalls2672 on Twitter, Boston Smalls 5 on TikTok, and I appreciate having me on, and thank you very much.
Any conversation, any subject that comes up, if you really want to talk about it, brother, just give me a call. You have a standing invitation always. You're welcome back.
Appreciate you, bud.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up. It was good talking to you, my friend.
All right. Enjoy your day.
Well, my people, if you believe it or not, we have gone an hour and a half. It just blew by. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. I want to ask you again, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Visit the Texas Paul store. We've got the mugs, and the Christmas mugs are out. I love the ones with the fact bat on them. Your Jewish friends have had a tough time lately. Buy your Jewish friend a happy Hanukkah mug. It keeps the lights on. It pays for the subscriptions, pays for the broadcasting service, and I am more than grateful for all your support. I hope you folks have a beautiful Sunday. Old Texas Paul out.